Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sandeep Goel, and I head the technology at Moglix, which is a B2B commerce firm. By B2B commerce, we mean an organization, commerce organization, which supplies industrial goods to various manufacturing organizations across the country. Very glad to be a part of Future of Work session, where we are going to talk about a very unique year 2020, where COVID had disrupted our personal as well as professional lives. The impact of COVID on our business. We'll talk about how the whole B2B commerce and manufacturing industry has got transformed during the year. Then we will talk about some of the areas, challenging areas or challenges that the COVID year has brought in front of us, which can be solved through technologies, and how at Moglix we are looking at solving those challenges through technology. And towards the end, we will look at some of the futuristic technologies, in line with the title of the session, which is Future of Work. We'll talk about some of the cutting edge disruptive technologies which can change the entire future of B2B commerce and bring new ways of working to us. Right. So let's get started with the first part of my session, which is about evolution of B2B commerce and how things change in year 2020 or changing in year 2021. So there were three things that primarily brought the change or made a difference to our work life. First one is Make in India. We being a B2B commerce company, we have a huge dependency on the manufacturing sector, and Make in India has been one of the big initiative which was existing pre-COVID as well, and COVID accelerated the whole initiative. Atmanirbhar Bharat added to it, and then which started to bring significant growth to the manufacturing industry in India. Second part, which we saw due to COVID, when most of the supply chains were getting disrupted, it was very difficult for getting the material from point A to point B. We started to see that most of the countries are switching to a mode where it becomes self-sufficient local supply chain, right? So people were looking at shipping material from the same country to the same country's origin, and which requires the supply chain infrastructure to be built very, very significantly. So the demand side as well as supply side start to match within the country. That was the second trend that we saw evolving significantly. The third trend which we saw, which was, it was very evident for all of us, that the offline nature of business that we see in the country started switching to online significantly. And this happened across various levels, right from bottom of the pyramid to the most sophisticated organization. And I'll explain it through a story, an example which I came across, which in fact made me think that, this is how the shift is going to happen, possibly pre-COVID time and post-COVID time differences. So there is a bakery outside our society where I live, and the guy he supplies products to most of the residents in our society. When the COVID arrived initially, this was a March-April period, initial days, the whole supply chain was disrupted, right? So people couldn't go out, these guys couldn't come in, and then slowly as things opened up, they started allowing the essential supplies into the society. Now I saw very interesting digital transformation happening with this person, and I would say the most simplified SaaS story that I have seen in my life. What this person did was he set up a catalog or his product listing using a Google Sheet. So he opened a Google Sheet and allowed all the residents to access it. And he mentioned that all of us can start placing our orders in that Google Sheet by referring to the catalog he had maintained on the first worksheet. Now, you place the order. This guy goes through the list. He lets you know what is the amount that you're supposed to pay. You clear your payment using Google Pay, which is, digital payment part. And then the next day he delivers the product to your doorstep if you have made the payment. Now, this is a classic, entire catalog-based buying and supply chain in action that we could see from a guy who probably was not aware of technology so much, right? So he had a catalog online, he was taking orders online, he was accepting payments online, and he was shipping the product. In few of the cases, we started seeing that, he used to come in and then the message used to arrive at our WhatsApp group saying that the bakery guy is here. And then few of the folks used to inquire that, hey, I forgot to place my order. Do you have an extra bread? And surprisingly, the guy used to say that, yes, I have got extra bread and I can supply. That means he was running a forecasting algorithm as well, that which are the extra products that I need to carry along with me while I do the supply chain. And this suddenly made me think that the most sophisticated organizations in the country have been trying to achieve this, where they standardize their catalog, they get customers to place an order, they receive advance payment, so there is no collection related issues, and then it gets delivered to their doorstep in time with some additional ad hoc request fulfillment as well. And this was a full supply chain in action. Now that led me to think that if a bakery guy can reach this level of automation without any programming, just using the frameworks and tools available on the cloud and automate the whole thing, why can we not start to implement some of these things? Why do organizations struggle to solve some of these challenges when they are implementing the same supply chain for a larger scale, right? And when I drill down, this will transition into the next topic, which talks about the technology challenges that we face in order to automate our supply chain. Is there were three things which came to my mind, I realized. The first one was that the master data that is maintained at our side or in most of the manufacturing or commerce organization, it's not clean. It requires a lot of harmonization, and it has some of the very common challenges. That is the first challenge. So master data cleaning and standardization is the first challenge that people face. Second is transaction data integration, where the same data set flows across the systems. And third is applications not being intuitive. So users find it quite difficult to use the application that is provided to them, and it requires a lot of training. So let's look at these three things in detail. Let's go to the master data cleaning and standardization part first. Now, if you look at in an organization, in a large B2B commerce organization, you deal with four different stakeholders. You deal with your internal users. You will have an order fulfillment team, warehouse team, etc. So you have internal data. You have clients data. Since you are taking orders from customers, of course, they send you the product details, etc. So customer data comes into picture. Then you have suppliers from where you procure the product. So you have supplier data, which is the third dimension. And the last one is you have the logistics service providers, people who ship your products from one location to the other. So you have four different data sets: your own data, customers data, suppliers data, and logistics providers data. If they're not in sync, if they cannot talk to each other, they're not clean, it starts to become a nightmare, right? So for example, in the bakery case we saw, the guy was maintaining a master catalog, and when I was placing order, I was looking at his catalog and placing an order, right? So this is the data set that you deal with. That's a variety that you deal with. Now, this data is not usually clean. You come across various challenges, right from duplicate data, incomplete data, because of which order processing becomes a problem, right? So this is the first challenge. In fact, I can give you one example from real life. This was last year. We received an order from a customer where the customer said that he's looking for 25 pieces of jalebi lights, right? So this was the order which came to us. And when our team looked at it, no one had a clue what a jalebi light is. Right? And then, of course, we had no choice but to go back to the customer seeking a clarification that what exactly did you mean when you said you needed jalebi lights? And then the customer told us that they are looking for spiral LEDs by Philips, 25 watts. Right? And then we could decode it or decipher it, saying that, okay, jalebi lights means spiral LED is what the customer is looking for. And then our team created a mapping saying that when customer says jalebi light, it means spiral LED. Right? So this is the kind of issues that you go through in order to make the entire supply chain seamlessly. Second part is the transaction data integration. So when a customer places an order, the order flows into my system. From my system, it goes into my warehouse system. from warehouse, my logistic person picks it up and then takes it back to the customer, or suppliers come into picture in between. Now, if these systems, the customer's ERP, my warehouse management system, logistics providers operating system, if they're not talking to each other, you start to see very inefficient data process. An order which you should be able to do in, let's say, 5 minutes or 10 minutes time, start to take days, and then you start to see delays, or if something breaks in between where you're not able to match the data, it starts to take very, very long time. Or many times what happens is that I post data from my side into another system, and that system is down, right? So the data doesn't go through. If you don't have right checks and balances built, then the whole chain will break and someone will have to come in and fix it manually. So second part is you have a lot of transaction data integration issues that start to come into picture. And the last one is that applications are not very intuitive for users to use it seamlessly, and in a self-service mode, they require a lot of training, and they're not very seamless. A few of the issues which users commonly face is that same data point they have to fill up at multiple places. They fill up some details at one place, another screen comes up, they fill up these details once again. Second is that if they have to get a complete picture, if they have to check the status of their order, or they have to find the order details, they are required to go to multiple systems. Their systems are not usually unified, and it becomes very inefficient where a user may have 4 to 5 windows open in front of them, and they are doing alt tab continuously to find out how to complete the picture, right? So it's very, very unproductive. So these three things become the largest challenges in creating a seamless supply chain and very efficient tech applications. To summarize, it's master data, it's the integration of transaction data, and intuitiveness of the application. So these are the three major things that you come across. Now let's drill down into the solution part, that how technology can solve these challenges, what kind of trends and patterns are coming up which are starting to address these challenges. Now, some of the fundamental blocks, if you see, which have evolved over last few years, which have become very, very powerful platforms to solve some of these problems. The first one is AI and ML, right? So anything artificial intelligence or machine learning based tools have become very powerful in terms of solving your master data problems, wherein these are extension of search algorithms, just like how you can do very powerful search on any e-commerce portal or whatever you do in your day-to-day interaction. Similar algorithms can come very handy in order for you to detect duplicates, in order to find out incomplete information. And they can start suggesting that, okay, when customer is asking for product A, they actually mean this particular product in your catalog. So they can act as a very, very powerful translator. So AI ML is definitely going to be the master data cleansing technology of future. There have been tools in the past which were built in a fairly crude manner. AI ML is going to be the future. So that's quite handy. Apart from translating the natural language or matching a product description with another one, machine learning can also help you look up the history data and identify that which product did you buy in the past. So this Jalebi Light example which I gave, let's say if I've done this transaction 6 months back, and next week the customer comes back again saying I am looking for Jalebi Lights, my machine learning algorithm would have learned that when someone says this is what it means, and they can pick up that product and complete the transaction. The next one is decision making using intelligence. Now, AI ML is just one part of intelligence system. Analytics is a much broader system which uses statistical algorithms, which uses various other analytical techniques to give you various decisions. So right from which product to choose, all the way up to which route to take when you are delivering the product from a logistics perspective. There are several decision points where many decisions are taken manually today, and with all these intelligence at each step mechanism, you can start to take these decisions in a fairly automated or autonomous manner where a system can help you make these decisions. So that becomes very efficient because you don't have a user sitting and referring to 4 different windows to decide that, okay, which route am I going to take for shipping this material? A system does all the combination permutations in the background and tells you which route to take. The next one is UX part, where you design applications which require least amount of training, and that's where the role of a product manager starts to become extremely critical, right? So some of the product managers have to really look at minimizing the number of steps that the users are required to take. Today most of the app store applications that people use, they just download and start using. It doesn't require any training. A similar kind of experience and use cases need to start coming in on the enterprise side as well. So people feel very comfortable using them without any training. So product management aspect becomes very important. The third part is reliable integration and audit trail aspects. So again, I'll give you a simple example. Not just the ERP systems of various enterprises. Today, you have systems like e-invoicing launched by the government. You have GST portal where we as an organization, we integrate with all these systems. And sometimes you post to these systems or you make a call, you don't get response in time and it times out. Now, handling these kind of exceptions, that what happens when the timeout goes through and you don't get a response from the system. And now engineering teams have to build reliable systems to ensure that they are designed to handle such situations and a transaction is reliably completed, or in case if there is a failure, the entire transaction rolls back rather than just a portion of it rolling back, leaving your transaction data in an inconsistent state. So technology-wise, in line with the challenges that I had highlighted in the previous section, you basically look at 3 key technologies which are going to play an important role: artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is for master data cleansing and taking intelligent decisions; the whole user experience part and product management part for designing systems which are intuitive; and the third is using technology in the right manner to build reliable integration and an audit trail to trace and build systems which are foolproof. Now, this gives us a baseline system, using which we can start to run an operating and reliable system. But there are a few things, very interesting things happening in the technology world today, which can start to take B2B commerce or B2B transformation to a different level altogether. Now, one such technology I wanted to talk about is Internet of Things, which has been around for several years now, almost a decade, where we are seeing a lot of transformation happening on the industrial side. Now, if you start to imagine that how IoT can start to go to the next level, in fact, just like how you have Internet of Things, something like commerce of things should also arrive. Now, I'll tell you what I mean by commerce of things is in Internet of Things, that 2 machines can talk to each other, communicate with each other, and start to give you some of the intelligent insights about themselves. One of the projects that my team worked on in the past was, some of the rotating equipments, could be a turbine or a motor. They can start to send out signals and indicate that I'm having some problems with the vibrations, and it could mean that either the shaft of the machine needs to be replaced or bearing requires a replacement. So by looking at the anomaly in the vibrations, you will be able to predict that it requires a new bearing or it requires a shaft replacement. Now imagine if I start to integrate this kind of a system with an e-commerce portal, right? So if, let's say, a rotating equipment is having a problem, it is talking to an e-commerce portal and saying, hey, I'm having a problem. Can you place an order for a ball bearing for me, which can be delivered to our plant in, let's say, 15 days time? Because the machine knows that it will have to take a shutdown within 15 days and have that ball bearing replaced, right? I don't know, a few of you might have heard of this product. There was a Dash button was a product that Amazon had launched quite some time back, which was, a button which you could just, let's say, you could, it had a magnet, so you could put it on top of any of your home appliance, like let's say a washing machine or a dishwasher. And then it had a few buttons. You can click, you can double click, or you can long click, and you can configure the actions. You can say, if I single click it, which means that the washing powder is over and I would like to place washing powder order from Amazon.com for my address. So practically, it's an extension of that. Given the level at which IoT has reached today, I'm sure we should be able to build commerce of things in future and place an order from my plant directly to the e-commerce portal, right? So that's one thing I would really love to see in action. It looks pretty exciting. Second one, which can transform the whole B2B commerce part, is the logistics part, and how UAV or drones, or probably flying cars on someday we will start to see, which can start to bring very, very new ways of delivering products to an end customer. The whole routing algorithm may go through a change. So it will practically be like a science fiction movie. You can imagine that a turbine running in a plant sent out a signal to an e-commerce site saying that I'm looking for a bearing. And then once the order was placed, a drone flew out to the warehouse, picked up that bearing, took it to the plant and delivered it completely manless, right? So when future of work, if I have to imagine something like a science fiction movie, this is what comes to my mind from a B2B commerce standpoint. And I hope that some of these things become a reality in next probably 10 to 15 years time. Also, we may be able to see some of these things happening. And as a technical person, I really look forward to see some of these things happening in action. And probably before we retire or hang our boots, we get to see some of these things. So these were some of the thoughts I wanted to talk about, that how things have changed during COVID period, how necessity became a mother of invention, and we saw some of the inventions happening from very, very bottom of the pyramid organizations, bringing those transformation to the mainstream industry, see some efficiency, and then take it to the future. So these were some of the thoughts I wanted to talk about. Thanks a lot for your time, and be safe and take care of yourself.